And welcome to the Morning Buzz here on 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair, the voice of Montclair State, coming at you live from the beautiful School of Communication and Media here at Montclair State University. I'm Louis Biondelillo, joined, as always, with the beautiful, the elegant, the man hanging by the sand. This is Kyle Pepitone. How you doing, Kyle?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Oh, very good. Go ahead. Say that again.
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm living life to the fullest extent. It is a Monday morning though. I don't know how you're feeling. You sleepy a little bit?
Uh, kind of. Probably not as sleepy as I've been the rest of the weekend, so not horrible.
That sounds a little bit better than me right now. But we're gonna get pumped. We're gonna get energized. But first, I think we need a newscast. Do we have a newscaster here today? Let's see. Roll call, newscaster. Anybody here?
Yep, that's me.
There we are. All right, you ready for your newscast? Hi, Patrina. Good morning.
How you doing, Louis? All right.
Awesome. Let's go.
Okay, so in national news today, according to abcnews.com, former President Donald Trump delivered his CPAC speech last night. In Trump's speech, he talks about how the past election was, quote, rigged due to false election fraud claims and accusing Democrats by them using the pandemic to, quote, cheat in the election. Trump also teases a run in 2024 presidential election without officially announcing it. Trump said, quote, actually, as you know, they just lost the White House, but that's just one of those things. But who knows? Who knows? Maybe I may even decide to beat them for a third time, okay? In Montclair State news, according to the Montclair Patch, Montclair State nursing students have decided to take part in the COVID-19 vaccination rollout by working at an Essex County immunization center. Montclair State students are helping by educating and helping register people for the vaccine. The nursing students inoculated 100 people during their shifts. And in local news, according to NJ.com, there's quite a shortage on pet food. Now, you may be thinking this is because of the pandemic, but this is actually because of the current weather conditions, as we all know. People have again started to panic buy pet food, causing the shortage. This is almost the same dilemma as back in last March when people were panic buying toilet paper. Fresh Pet's popular food brand, President Scott Morrison told NJ Advanced Media, quote, honestly, we're just having trouble keeping up. And on to the weather today. In Montclair, there will be a high of 48 degrees and a low of 19 degrees with mostly cloudy skies today. So that concludes your news update for February 15th. For WMSC, I'm Patrina Geiger.
Awesome. Thank you, Patrina. Now, Matt, I hear you're a special guest in the studio today. Do you mind hitting us with the 2-minute warning?
Of course. In Montclair sports, the men's and women's basketball teams faced off against New Jersey City University, and while the men's team took 2 losses on Saturday and Sunday, the women's team went 2-0, so not the worst outcome. The women's volleyball team will have their first game played tomorrow against Stockton University. In professional sports, the MLB season is officially underway as spring training kicked off yesterday. Great start as the Yankees lost to the Blue Jays. As a Mets fan, you love to see it. But it is spring training, and the Yankees will probably finish towards the top of the league, so we'll get to that later. We'll get a first look at our Mets today at 1:05 as they take on the Marlins, so be sure to be tuned into that. In the NBA, the Knicks are above 500 after they won 109-90 against the Detroit Pistons and stand at the 4th seed above last year's finals runner-up, the Miami Heat. An interesting storyline to keep track of for the rest of the season, as the Knicks have been towards the bottom of the league these past few years. The Nets will play tonight against the Spurs and hope to take over the number 1 seed in the East, as they are just a half game behind the 76ers. In the NHL, the Rangers lost yesterday to the Bruins, and the Devils lost to the Capitals. Not a good day. But the Rangers' next game will be against the Sabres, and the Devils' next game will be against the Islanders. And today, in sports history in 1988, Edmonton's Wayne Gretzky picks up his first assist in a match against the Oilers, where they won 5-3, and that moved Gretzky to become NHL's all-time leader in assists with 1,050. For perspective, he moved past Gordie Howe, who had 1,049 assists in 26 years, while Gretzky got 1,050 in just 9. I'll have to send it back to you, Kyle.
Awesome. Thank you. Now, Louis, do you want to start with our stories today?
Absolutely. And, there was something we heard in Patrina's newscast today that I wanted to take a little bit of a deeper delve into, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, I mean, you're the host. What say do I have?
That's facts. There we go. So into story number one, former President Donald Trump gave his first post-presidential speech only a month after leaving office. He spoke as the keynote speaker at the Conservative Political Action Conference in Orlando, Florida this past Sunday, aka yesterday. He called it, quote, the most disastrous first month of any president in modern history, end quote, hitting Biden on many fronts from immigration to national security to Biden's pandemic response. Trump called on Biden to reopen schools, which closed down during Trump's tenure due to the pandemic, saying that Biden, quote, caved to teachers' unions, end quote. Biden has said his goal is to have the majority of schools open for in-person learning within the first 100 days of his administration. One last thing, and you hinted at it, Patrina, before, he teased that he could run again in 2024, saying, quote, who knows? I could just hear him saying that. Who knows? I don't know. It could be the biggest third run ever. He said, furthering his false election claims of victory, I may even decide to beat them, aka the Democrats, for the third time. When he says the third time, he believes that he still believes that he won the second time. So that's where we are with former President Donald Trump. And listen, most of the time I would be excited to hear from a past president. But when he still, after so many months, claims that he falsely claims that he won this election, it's ridiculous at this point, in my opinion. We know for a fact that the election had a lot of integrity. We know for a fact that the votes were counted. They were double counted in many states. And he's still making interesting claims when it comes to that, Kyle.
Right. But I mean, when he says most disastrous president of modern history, like, I don't know too much about politics, but I did hear recently, and I don't know too much about it, but Biden did something involving the Middle East, and I don't know like I said, I don't know the ins and outs of it, but didn't Biden just recently bomb Syria? Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, that is absolutely factual.
Okay.
Yeah, so he definitely went off that. He didn't directly mention it, and I think here's why. Because during his presidency, he happened to do the same thing many times in his 4 years. I think he was definitely, like I said, more upset, or spoke to be more upset about schools still closed.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us, like, we're not political figures by any means, but a lot of us are really upset about that still lack of in-person classes. At least I am, considering I feel like I'm the only department in Montclair who still has fully online classes.
Listen, Kyle,
spoke about this before.
That's completely fair. A lot of people are having similar feelings. I wish I had more in-person classes. But at the same time, you do see other people that would not take an in-person class at all.
Right.
Like if that was the only thing offered, they would probably take a gap semester right now.
Yeah.
And listen, it's up to everyone's personal safety. I'm totally fine with everyone having their own individual opinions on that. But he really went after Biden on that. But here's my issue with him going after Biden for that. He couldn't get them open, and here's why. It's up to the states, and even furthermore, it's up to each individual school district.
Right.
I don't know if you can blame a president for schools not opening on the accounts of the governors.
That is true.
I think it's difficult to blame Trump for it, if people were blaming Trump for it earlier, and I think it's very difficult to blame Biden during it right now.
Yeah, that is true. And I'd say it's probably not either president's fault, because like you said, it depends on governors and school districts. And we talked about this a few weeks ago, it's getting to a point where it seems like most of the teachers just don't want to go in, and rather be COVID convenient, as you called it, rather than an actual genuine fear of the pandemic. I feel at this point, a lot of I get the pandemic's still a thing. It's still out there. The vaccine's rolling out. We're getting through it slowly, but it feels like a fear of the pandemic has grown into less of a fear and more of an accustomed to being, quote unquote, lazy.
So here's the thing. for a second, just to sidetrack for a second.
Yeah.
You really sounded like Governor Andrew Cuomo there for a second. I don't know if anyone else heard that, but when you were speaking, I was like, "What, Mr. Governor of New York? Are you here live on WMSE right now?"
Well,
I don't know. Not with what you were saying, it's how you were saying it. And
right.
you definitely sounded like Cuomo there for a second.
Oh.
Right. And Trump did say that Biden caved to the teachers unions.
Right.
And I could see, like, if Donald Trump wanted to say that each individual school district caved to teachers unions, I can see how that's a fair argument.
Right.
I don't know. Again, I don't know if you could blame Biden for that personally. Now, the more important thing from this speech is that tease of running in 2024. Huge news. It's not official,
Right.
but I think that a lot of people are going to take it as official. Like I
Yeah.
personally believe that he's going to run in 2024. I think that he needs to let it go. I truly do think he needs to let it go right now, because if we look at look up on the good old Google, Trump is 74 years old right now, right? Yeah.
Yes.
No, he is. I just
Oh,
looked it
okay.
up. He's 74 years old. And at the end of this term, that means he'll be 77 or even 78, which means if he does win another term, even if you love the guy, he's going to be 82 by the time that he's done with
Right.
his second term. That's ridiculous. He was already the oldest president when he was elected.
Oh, really?
Biden is also really old.
I think Biden's is 78.
Let's see.
I'm not mistaken.
Biden is 78. So you know
Yeah.
what? My theory cancels out, but I said the same thing about Joe Biden. I think it's ridiculous that we have 78-year-olds running to be the president of the United States when the average age of people in the United States is like in the 30s. Like, I personally don't see how a 78-year-old, anybody, it
I
could be
mean-
the best darn 78-year-old ever. I don't see how they can represent how I feel.
Unless it's Morgan Freeman.
Okay, no, you know what? Morgan Freeman for president 2024. The views and opinions that Kyle and I just shared do not represent WMSC or the school.
Right. But if you do look at it, like, it wasn't just these two that were old. Like, a majority of the candidates were old. Hillary, I don't actually know if Hillary ran this year or this past election, but like when she ran, she's not, in the youth culture. Bernie Sanders is pretty old too. It's a long list of people. There's not anybody, I'm not going to say our age, because me personally, am still too young to run, but in that 30-year-old range that you mentioned, there's not a lot of them running for office. Like, I guess there are a few running for like smaller offices, but there's no, at least to my knowledge, like 30, 40-year-olds that are running for president.
So there was one, and we were all shocked if you were following politics at the time. Mayor Pete Buttigieg, as our former news director calls him, Mayor Pete Butt. I think he's a funny man. But anyway, he's 30. He is 39 years old, which means he was in his mid 30s when he ran.
Right.
Because he was, I guess, late 30s, 38. He was 38. But this is what I'm talking about. While Pete Buttigieg might have not been the best candidate himself, he could have been. That's up to you. We need more people around his age. We need more mayor butts. That's what we need.
Because the other people, like the current people running, probably won't be around much longer, just as natural selection takes its course. It's not the right term. It's not exactly what I meant to say.
Nature takes its course.
Thank you.
Natural selection for sure.
I'm just gonna leave now.
Yeah, we'll see you later, Kyle. Actually, Patrina and Matt are the new hosts. Patrina, so what do you think about this?
I was gonna say, like, in my opinion, I feel like it's important to have like a young like president in office in a way, just because of like I feel like somebody old lived in a whole different time than like us, like young, like people did. And so it's like, I feel like somebody young in office could really be beneficial to like our future, and like really make a difference for our future.
Yeah, I feel like they see the world differently. Like these old politicians, none of them, Democrats or Republicans, really care about climate change because they're not gonna be here.
Yeah.
And I hate to be like that. As Kyle said, natural selection. I'm gonna keep bringing that up, Kyle.
That's fair.
But somebody young cares about the future for themselves.
Right.
And hopefully they also care about the future for other people. But I'd rather have a younger person to confirm that they care about it at least for themselves. Because even if they're only doing it for themselves, that we're
It's
gonna
helping all of us, yeah.
exactly. We're gonna reap
And
the
they have like
rewards.
a totally different mindset.
Yeah, exactly. Matt, what are you thinking?
So the one president that I know that really got it done was John F. Kennedy, JFK. He was a really good president in my opinion, and he was also really young. He had like these ideas that he wanted to bring to life, and those are all ideas that most of us young people would have really liked to see. And like the astronauts on the moon, that would have been like really cool to see and witness. Obviously, I wasn't alive when that happened, but as a young person, like it would have been really cool to see a president that's also pretty young and like strive for things that may not seem likely at times.
Yeah, listen, I think you hit it spot on. Um, I think all of us are in agreement, no matter how it is, um, that younger people as presidential candidates are good things. And Matt, to your JFK point, the only thing I don't like about JFK, from a preliminary research base, is his airport. I think it's an awful airport, disgusting, rat infested. No, I'm just kidding. Um, but we will see where this goes. As always, you can tune into the Morning Buzz every single weekday during the semesters, Monday through Friday, 8 to 9 a.m. And I'm sure Donald J. Trump will be mentioned many more times in the next. I don't know how long. How long does a Cheeto live for? I'm not sure. But however long he lives for, we're gonna keep going for it. So I say we go to our next story. Mr. Kyle, how you feeling about that? Let's go.
Pretty good. I mean, we would have had a great segue a few minutes earlier if we stopped it at that Cuomo remark, but
I know.
not president. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo is under fire again as he acknowledges that his behavior towards women has been seen as quote, misinterpreted and unwanted flirtation. While under fire from members of his own party, Cuomo said that he would cooperate in the investigation in sexual harassment. Many top Democrats statewide are siding with General Attorney Letitia James, who is leading the investigation. And I should also worth to mention that Letitia and her company have denied, what was the word they used? Oh God, I forget, but it's like Andrew Cuomo tried to get his own people to do the investigation, but Letitia James and her company denied that, saying it is important that they do the investigation, this independent investigation. And many Democrats also side with Letitia, saying, we don't need Cuomo to pick someone to do the investigation. We need an independent investigation. New York Senator Kirsten Gillibrand said, quote, these allegations are serious and deeply concerning. As requested by Attorney General James, the matter should be referred to her office so that she can conduct a transparent, independent, and thorough investigation with subpoena power, end quote. And this investigation comes only a few weeks after Governor Cuomo was under fire again for being suspected of undercounting the death tolls in the nursing homes and accusations saying, quote, his policies made the situation in the homes worse. And support for the governor, as mentioned, is quickly depleting.
This governor's a lot. Listen, I keep saying listen, but listen. Governor Cuomo, I think, really tried during the pandemic, especially the early days. I think he tried to do good things. And I'll give credit where credit's due. But this man is the biggest hypocrite I have ever seen in my life.
Really?
Yeah,
That's a bold claim.
Okay, he is a big hypocrite. How about that? 3 years ago, we saw President Trump add a new Supreme Court justice, Justice Kavanaugh, right?
Right.
During that time, there were allegations against Justice Kavanaugh. And Governor Cuomo was completely against Justice Kavanaugh holding any office because of the accusations, which I think is a totally fine remark to make.
Right.
But here's the thing. You have to be consistent, sweetheart. You have to be consistent. You can't just go from one side of the aisle to the other and change just because it suits you better. You don't have morals. I think Governor Andrew Cuomo is a perfect politician. I say that with the utmost disrespect. I think a perfect politician is an awful human being. And
I can agree with you there.
That's my humblest of opinions.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I am with Governor Cuomo. With this, if it's true, it's really repulsive.
Well, bad morals is one thing for a politician, but I also will raise you that a oversaturated ego is probably something else that all politicians need. Because remember, he wrote a book about himself on how he handled the coronavirus.
While the coronavirus is still going on.
Exactly. And while he's also under fire for suspected for being making the homes worse. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. I know he made a lot of good decisions. I truly believe that he did.
Yeah.
Some people are saying, I'm sorry, our producer's trying to tell us something, but I'm not understanding what she's saying. But anyway, these allegations are serious, and they need to be. I think we all can agree they need to be investigated thoroughly.
Yes.
Nothing comes out of it. Nothing comes out of it. We live in a country where you're innocent until proven guilty, in my opinion.
Right.
Well, that's not even my opinion. That's just the truth of the law of the land.
Yeah.
And that's how I choose to see people. I don't see people as guilty until they're proven guilty. They don't. He doesn't have to prove his innocence, because that's not what this country does. What I do have to say though, right now, it's not looking good for Governor Andrew Cuomo.
Not really. No.
Yeah. No. I don't see a route right now where this doesn't take him down, at least politically speaking.
Right. But it's also his last term as governor, right? Like he can't run again for it.
That's a great question. That I'm not entirely sure. If anybody else in the chat wants to fact check that while we continue. But even if it is his last term as governor,
right?
Do you think that this is his last term as a politician? Because I don't. I think
that's not how politics works.
Yeah, no. We've seen. Listen, Governor Andrew Cuomo. He's not a spring chicken by any means, any stretch of the imagination, but he's not as old as these other politicians. I think he has a few more decades in him.
He's on his third term, so he is eligible to do a fourth.
Wow.
In 2022.
And thank you, Matt, for that. I personally think that every politician, every office that a politician could work in the government should have hefty term limits.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I think a 2-term limit is totally fine. And here's why. Politics was never intended by the founding fathers to be a job. It was never intended to be a job. People were not supposed to live in Washington, D.C. and just live there and work there for their entire lives. That was not the point. Right. The point was the government was supposed to be the people. And after you serve your 2 terms, you serve your country, you go back home, you go live your life in the government, the country that you helped create. So there was always an incentive to do better for the people, because you are the people. You are going to be better. You are going to be the people when you are taken out of office in 2 terms.
Yeah, exactly.
Right now, I don't think that Andrew Cuomo sees himself as a person of. I don't think he sees himself as a person. I think he sees himself as the governor of New York and future something else. And that's with most politicians. You look at Governor Murphy, too. I don't think Governor Murphy is going to go anywhere, even if he does lose this election in November. which we could talk about in future weeks as well.
Yeah, they just find another position, and that's what this is my opinion. But what you're saying is the whole term limit thing. On top of that, I think you should only be allowed to hold one type of political office in your lifetime.
In your
I feel
lifetime.
it's extreme, but I feel like hopping from governor to senator to president to whatever else there may be. I feel like that's giving you, it's keeping you in that power longer, no matter how intense the position is. But if you are able to hop around, we get situations like this. Okay, you finish your term, but you're not done being a politician. You're just going to keep collecting off of other possible openings.
Right.
Excuse the hand motions.
No. I see exactly what you're saying. My only pushback on that is I want a president who's experienced, a president of the United States.
That is true.
And because of that, I think that they need to be in another position first. Now, it's not required by law.
Right.
However, we keep voting people in that have had other positions because we, as a country, fundamentally, mostly believe that they should have experience before being president. Because, listen, there's 330 million lives at stake. And we saw that in the past year. We saw what the president can do, what the power of the president can do, and what the power of the president can't. And what they can do and what they choose not to do. That's the bigger thing, by the way, in the past year. I've been going on a government rant this past week, but anyway. So we'll see where this goes with Governor Andrew Cuomo. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of new updates with this. From my understanding, this was just flirtation, not just, but it was flirtation in the office. I don't think that he'll face any charges. However, I think there will be a push to remove him from office after this.
Most likely, yeah. That's where I see this going. Like, and this might come across as cynical, but like a lot of politicians are excused from like things like this. Like they're not going to get much in terms of like penalty. They just might lose their position. But like, as we talked about, there's always something else for them.
Yeah, always something else for them. But anyway, I think it's time for our next story. And this one is yours again, Kyle. Two in a row.
I don't want to call it good news because it's not. It's pretty morbid to hear, but there's a silver lining that starts it off. So
go for it.
Following all the blizzards and the power outages in Texas, a majority of the state has finally gotten their power back. However, that comes at a cost, and I mean that quite literally.
That was good. That was good, Kyle. Good. That was good radio. That should be applauded and called out when necessary. Thank you.
But through the power outages, as we know, Texas, their power grid works a little differently than most of us. They are more independent rather than a city union grid, like something we have, correct?
Yeah, it's privatized.
Yeah, exactly. So they've racked up tens of billions of dollars in electricity bills, which doesn't include the tens of billions racked up in damages and other expenses. One resident, D. Andrew Upshaw, had an electricity bill of $6,700 over a 7-day period in February, when usually an electricity bill for him would be $80 on the usual, but a bad month could reach up to $300. Still way lower than what he's facing now. The Texas state government, however, is trying to find ways to provide financial assistance to residents like Upshaw, but it's suspected they're probably not going to be totally let off the hook because these power companies still have to pay these bills and they need to get that money from somewhere. In terms of preparation for future storms, though, the CEO of CPS Energy, Paula Gold Williams, said, quote, we're going to have a conversation across the state about what we want to do, what we want to protect. I believe we want to protect lives and people's livelihoods, she said. And so that could cost an uplift or an overall increase in price, end quote. So good to see that they're getting power back, but the consequences are heavy.
Very heavy. And I'm always full of hot takes, I think, right, Kyle? Would you say I'm a hot takes kind of person?
Yeah, I can put you under that category.
We'll get to more hot takes later, but my hot takes here. That was a tease. Did you see that? That was a tease. Anyway. No electric company should be completely privatized in this country.
Probably
I,
not. No.
I think it's ridiculous that there's no regulations in Texas on power companies. We see now what can happen because it did happen.
Right.
Listen, I'm usually, I keep saying listen, that's my phrase of the day. Listen, listen to me. Sound like an old Italian man.
Well,
I'm
as an
sorry.
old Italian man, I can confirm that is what we sound like.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Old Italian Kyle.
Fact checker.
Fact checker. So I don't see how anybody can look at what happened and say, yeah, these Texans should have to pay a lot of money for the electricity when it comes back on.
Right.
It's not like they just suffered enough.
It's
There was people that were without power for a week. That includes power, internet, lights, heat. Some people lost running water,
yeah.
cell phones, telephones. They didn't have anything for a week, and now you're going to charge them more money because the power is more in demand. Listen, I get supply. Listen, I get supply and demand, but that's why this should not be happening. It should not be privatized. And I do not blame the power companies for raising the price right now.
Right.
I don't blame them. I blame the government for allowing them to do it. That's where I stand on this, because if you own an electric company and you have no restrictions, yeah, of course, if you have no electricity, you're going to try to make up more money. And this way you don't have to lay off more people. You still make your salary, things like that. Your company doesn't have to do anything there.
Right.
But it's just simply not right. It's simply wrong. And I do blame the people at the heads of these companies that are making these decisions, because they are choosing to raise the price right now.
Right.
But I also, like I said, blame government for allowing this to happen. The Texas government, not the U.S. government, the Texas government.
Right. Yeah. It's like, it's horrible because, like we said last week, they're not prepared for something like this. Texas is not a place where you say, oh yeah, they get the worst snowstorms every year.
Right.
This is like the second time it's happened, and the time before that wasn't even this bad.
Right. But the problem is now experts are saying due to climate change, and it all comes down to these issues here, these fundamental issues. Due to climate change, this might be a more regular occurrence than you think. And that's why we call it climate change, not global warming.
Right.
This is a perfect example of that. Like this, I hate to bring up the man's name again, but this is something that I would hear Donald Trump, if he was in Texas during the storm, he'd say, see, global warming, it's a hoax. It's a hoax, and everyone believes me. Everyone believes me. And he would just go on a rant about that and how it's fake. He probably did it. He probably would have if he still had Twitter, if I'm being honest. Like, I could see Donald Trump tweeting about that. But I think this is a perfect example of why basic essential needs like electricity, which is an essential need right now, especially in that climate that they were facing, they find 60 degrees cold. That's what people in Texas find cold. You can only imagine how many of them really need that heat right now, and can't do it because they simply can't afford it.
Right.
And I don't think it's right. Listen, I'm not one of those people that say, I'm not one of those people that say everyone should get everything for free. I'm not. But in this time, there's extenuating circumstances.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think everything needs to be taken on a case-by-case basis like that.
Right. And that's the issue. Like, there's nobody who's saying, well, I'm sure there's some people, but a majority of people are probably saying these people shouldn't have to pay this. But from an economic standpoint, and I'm not an economics person by any mean, but this money has to come from somewhere. And the issue, if the residents who shouldn't pay it are not going to pay it because, like I said, they shouldn't, where are they getting that money from? That's the issue that comes into play here. I'm all for them not paying this. I don't think they have to. They suffered enough as it is. because, like I said, they're not prepared for a major snowstorm of this magnitude. But from a
Absolutely
business
right.
standpoint, money doesn't appear out of thin air.
You definitely provide some interesting interesting thoughts there, Kyle. But listen, we are gonna be back here on the Morning Buzz right after this short break with more about the Montclair School District using an online monitoring system on their students called Go Guardian. And welcome back to the Morning Buzz here on 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair, the voice of Montclair State. I'm Louis Biontalillo, joined as always with the beautiful Kyle Pepitone. Hi, Kyle, again.
Hello.
Of course, we have Patrina. Hi, Patrina.
How you doing, Louis?
We have Matt.
What is going on?
Matt's in studio today. How does it feel to be in studio?
Oh, it's awesome. I love it.
This is your second time in studio, first time in a year, right?
Yeah. 2 years. 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years. Anyway, we got a lot of stories. 2 years. Wow. We got one more story that we really want to get through. I really want to get through personally. And this is about the Montclair School District. Now, we're not talking Montclair State University, the Montclair School District. So like K through 12. So this is how Montclair schools are starting to monitor students online with a program called Go Guardian. This is from montclairlocal.news. Montclair Public Schools are piloting a tool that would let teachers monitor students' online activities, message students, and even close students' browser tabs when logged into their district accounts. The initiative is prompted by staff recommendations and a need to keep students safe online, but it has prompted concerns about privacy among some parents and students as word filtered out into the community over the last few days. The superintendent of Montclair Schools told Montclair Local in an email Friday that the district has piloted the Go Guardian platform in several technology classrooms and recently conducted a training for high school teachers. The platform has not yet been used district-wide. Basically how it works, it's enabled when a student is logged into either a district issued Chromebook or to a Chrome browser using an account on the district's domain. It can't be used when a student is logged out of that account. Not all students use district issued devices, but Montclair Schools distributed more than 1,300 Chromebooks to students leading into the current school year. The superintendent went on to say that more training sessions would be coming up. He said the district would, quote, communicate more about the service to all stakeholders before it becomes a district-wide initiative and get feedback and comments from our families. So I don't know how you guys feel about this. Go ahead, Kyle.
So I went to a high school that handed out laptops before all this happened.
Right.
And they had something similar to this. I forget the exact name, but Matt and Amanda should also know what I'm talking about. We all went to the same school.
Really?
But yeah. But I'm not okay. I'll be honest. I don't know if all the teachers used it, but it became clear when some teachers did. And look, I'm not saying I was a bad student. I'm just saying classes get boring after a while. And kids these days are tempted to browse the internet while sitting in class. And I think a lot of us did. The issue being we couldn't because of, said Go Guardian like program. It's not great. And I don't think it would be good for current online schools now, because something I know is that it's very rough to begin with to sit in online schools, and you need a little bit of something to keep you going. And if that little bit of something is a little bit of tune out, then I'm okay with it.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. From a counter perspective, and I'll give the counterpoint for a second. A lot of if these students were in school and they were using devices, the teacher would be able to come around, see what each person's doing, make sure that they're focusing on the work. But while they're at home, they literally could be on anything. They're on their home Wi-Fi networks. I don't know if anything could be, you know what? Things probably are restricted on the school Chromebooks. But if it's their personal laptops, which I'm sure a lot of them are using, there's no way for the teacher to control that. And yes, while some people might say it's unfair to the students, I also think it might be unfair to the teachers if they don't have something like this. Like my sister's a teacher. I see her teach sometimes when she used to be completely virtual. it was sad. You could tell like some of these kids were not all of them. Like she's a good teacher, so she engages the kids, she gets people involved. But sometimes they weren't there.
Right.
And they weren't paying attention. I think we can all, after taking a year of online classes, can agree that sometimes there's those days that you just doze off. You guys feel that?
Couldn't agree with anything more in my life.
I
So
have to
there's
say,
a lot of those days virtually.
Yeah.
I kind of feel bad for like in some of my classes, like in the past, like this past year, I'm a freshman. This past year, there are some classes where every single student has their camera off. So it's just like the teacher is just talking to a bunch of black boxes, and like I kind of feel bad, like I want to turn my camera on to like make sure that the teacher knows like she's not just talking to nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had that same mentality before. When I see that nobody has their cameras on, I think it's disrespectful to the professor.
Yeah.
And so I try to turn my camera on. But anyway, long story short, this is not the first school district that's done this. For example, my sister's school district in Manville does use Go Guardian, and there was a little bit of a backlash off of it. But they're allowed to do it. The school districts are allowed to do it. There's nothing like, yes, you can make the argument that it should be changed, but as of right now, I think they have every right to do what they're doing. But I think that wraps up that story. Kyle, do you want to introduce our segment of the day?
Sure. Today's segment, and it's been the first time in a while. I think we've gone 2 weeks maybe without it. But well, this is the current new segment of the day called Hot Takes with Emma. Emma, would you like to tell us what you've got for us today?
I would love to. Hello, everyone. This is Emma Coughlin with some hot takes today, where I talk a little bit about some things that caught my attention this past week and what I think about it. So the Golden Globes were last night. I don't know if anybody watched it. I watched it partly for class, but also partly because I love a good award show, which sometimes I'm embarrassed to admit, but honestly, I should just embrace it. I do like a good award show. And especially I had to watch it because Tina Fey and I actually went to the same high school, obviously not at the same time. But so I always watch her when she's doing something. Yeah, so this is the first time I watched a COVID period award show. I know the Emmys happened during COVID, but I did not watch that. And honestly, I kind of liked it. It made it very human, I suppose. Yeah, so that was a little bit different, but I liked it. Everybody was kind of a little bit more relaxed. Jason Sudeikis was in a hoodie, and Jodie Foster was in her pajamas. So that was great. And there were a lot of cats and dogs, too, that I got to see, which, I mean, who doesn't love that? So that was really exciting.
That's lovely.
Yeah, it was lovely. There were a lot of like kids, like you could see the celebrities with their families and stuff like that, which I think was nice. Like, I feel like that makes more sense instead of them all like sitting at these fancy tables with all the other celebrities with like maybe their husbands or wives or something. But it was nice to see them like actually with their families. It just, I don't know, it made sense to me.
It was a nice vibe.
It was a nice vibe. There were some technical issues, as can be expected with Zoom and stuff, but I don't know. I think it was worth it. I don't think it was that bad. So anyway, here are some of my opinions about winners and things. So the show S Creek, I think was a bit snubbed last night, and maybe I should say more that Dan and Eugene Levy were snubbed. I think they did a really good job on that show. I did see that show. And I did not see Small Axe or Ted Lasso, so I can't speak for the win for John Boyega and Jason Sudeikis. Annie Murphy also lost to Gillian Anderson from The Crown, but I can't get super mad about it because I did see that show and she did a phenomenal job. And Catherine O'Hara did win Best Actress in a Musical or Comedy, which was well-deserved. And S Creek did win Best Comedy Series as well. So maybe snubbed isn't the right word, but I was a little disappointed for Dan and Eugene Levy because I love them. There were two things I was really, really excited about. The Crown won really big last night, and I love that show. I know it's kind of an old person show. My friends make fun of me for watching it, but I love it.
Totally okay.
Yeah, I was especially excited for Emma Corrin and Josh O'Connor, who played Prince Charles and Princess Diana. I was totally blown away by their performance, and I didn't expect them to win, so that was a pleasant surprise. And then the second thing was the Borat subsequent movie film, and Sacha Baron Cohen. I was a little disappointed for Maria Baklava, who was also in that movie, because I think she not only was really hilarious and brilliant, and this was like her first time in a movie, which is awesome, but she's also super brave for some of the things she did, which we don't need to get into what she did, but I think that deserved some recognition. But it was awesome that Borat won, and it was awesome that Sacha Baron Cohen won, because he did a lot of great things with that movie, and I think, yeah, well deserved. I think this is my most controversial opinion of the night. I had a bit of a discussion with my dad about this afterwards. I saw two movies that were nominated for Best Drama, Nomadland and The Trial of the Chicago 7, and both were fantastic movies. But Nomadland did win, which I'm not saying isn't deserved, but I was a little surprised. I felt like Chicago 7 should have won, and they did win Best Screenplay, which was definitely deserved. But I don't know. I felt like, I don't even know if this makes sense, but I felt like I had a stronger emotion after watching Chicago 7 than I did watching Nomadland. But my father felt the opposite. He felt that he had more of a connection with Nomadland. And that might be because of our age, which is also interesting to me because I'm not completely sure of the age range of the Hollywood Foreign Press, but I would imagine that they're probably a lot closer to my dad's age than my age.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of bringing up back what you guys said, like, should young people have more of a say in this? I don't know.
There you go. From politics to entertainment, yeah, we want young people involved.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thought. I've kind of just been thinking, not that Nomadland didn't deserve it, because it was a fantastic movie and it was really creative and unique. I don't know if anybody saw it. But Chicago, the Trial of Chicago 7 was a lot more timely. I felt like it covered a lot of the things that are really, really important right now. So I don't know. Did anybody else watch the Golden Globes? I don't know if it's just me.
So
but-
I have an unpopular opinion. Well,
Okay.
I don't know. It might be popular, but it might be a hot take here. My
Okay.
biggest hot take of the night was that Ricky Gervais is the only reason I enjoy the Golden Globes. You know, yeah, he did not host last night, and it made me sad. He used to roast people. I got really excited when I heard the Golden Globes were coming on because I know he's hosted a few times now. But it was definitely not him last night, and it was definitely more of a feel good. Would you say?
Yes. I think too, I didn't love that Amy Poehler and Tina Fey were in separate places,
Right.
because they would have done a lot better if they were sort of bouncing off each other's energy.
For sure.
It made it a little awkward. So I kind of know what you're saying. I can't say that I necessarily wouldn't want them to host, because I'm a huge Tina Fey and Amy Poehler person.
Right.
But I do agree that it was a lot more feel good.
Okay. Listen. I've been saying that all show. I like feel good. It's just, for me, the Golden Globes will forever be a roast show, and it not being a roast show makes me sad.
I mean, there were several roasts. There was Sacha Baron Cohen threw in a few there. I think Rosamund Pike actually roasted Rudy Giuliani in the process of commending Maria Baklava. So that was good. I think Sacha Baron Cohen roasted Giuliani and Trump, I believe. Pretty sure. And I did not see the beginning of the Globes because I had to work until 8. So I know Tina Fey and Amy Poehler roasted the Golden Globes themselves, but I don't know what exactly was said.
I like when they roast the show. That makes me laugh.
Yeah.
Because they're getting paid by that.
Yeah, it is good. Yeah. So, but I think overall it was well done considering the circumstances. So hats off to the Hollywood Foreign Press, I suppose.
So the one thing I wanted to say before we concluded about the Golden Globes was I'm a big Mandalorian fan. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that show.
Yes.
It's the Star Wars series, and it was so good. And it was up for Best Television Series Drama, and it did not win. And I was kind of sad about that because I love the Mandalorian.
Yeah, that's shocking to me because I know that was a huge sensation. Emma, you got an opinion on that?
Yes, only because The Crown won. So I had no problem with that. But that's just, I haven't seen all of the Mandalorian though.
Yeah, neither have I.
That's crazy. It's so good.
Emma and Matt are about to about to tussle over this. You know what?
It's time to duel!
I'm sorry, Kyle's gonna have to go edit that out now. I think I did that purely for that reason. But anyway, so thank you so much, Emma, for those hot takes on the Golden Globes and everything within it. I have to admit, I'm a bad television student. I'm a bad communication student. I'm a communication student that barely consumes media. But that's where we are right now. We appreciate everyone on the show. We had a lot of good stories today. I think it's been a decent show for everyone. But from everyone here, I'm Louis Biontalillo.
I'm Kyle Pepitone.
I'm Patrina Geiger.
I'm Matt Boucher.
And I'm Emma Coughlin.
And this has been The Morning Buzz on 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. Don't forget, you can tune in every single weekday, 8 to 9, to get more Morning Buzz news and updates. And don't forget, we have great programming all throughout the day, only on the voice of Montclair State University.